All right, welcome on. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Again, want to welcome on. Holding by the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. And we go for Hanukkah, but we're back up and running. I have a normal schedule this week, and for upcoming week hopefully shouldn't be an issue. We were finishing up the last verse in the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. And that is verse 16, where the Torah says, right? The Torah said that if you don't wash your clothing, right, in the case where if you ate carrion, if you ate an animal that died by itself, was not ritually slaughtered, then it says, Torah before said, you have to wash your garments and you have to go to the mikvah. You have to literally lave yourself in water, means go to the mikvah, and you're unclean until that evening. So before we said, great, so you go to the mikvah, that night you are considered tahor, you're considered pure. In verse 16, even if he washes them not, if you don't wash, let's say you don't wash clothing, right, or you don't lave your flesh, you don't go to the mikvah, then you shall bear the iniquity. Right? Then you shall bear the iniquity, which on that, Rashi said that's by entering the base of Mikdash. You enter the sanctuary, the temple or the Mishkan, let's say, the tabernacle in the state of uncleanliness, and is liable to be spiritually cut off. Right? He gets spiritually cut off because there are a number of things that a person can do, the 36 things that a person can do, which we put up a few weeks back, that a person can get spiritually cut off if you don't repent. So pretty much that we mentioned. One thing I do want to mention, with that, a few things. One is that we don't have that level of purity and impurity today. The only level of purity and impurity, right, would be if a woman got a period, she wants to be with her husband, she go to the mikvah, right, after 2 weeks, whatever the time period is, right, she'll go to the mikvah and she'll be permitted to her husband. Very good. Now, that's the level of impurity that can be taken off. Any other level of impurity cannot be taken off. So we're in a virtual state of impurity. And even if a person came in contact with a dead animal or any of these other things, so there is no way of purification, right? That's why a person cannot go on the Temple Mount, which we've spoken about before. A Jew, let's say better, a Jew cannot go up there because he gets spiritually cut off. And vast majority opinion of rabbinic authorities is that we're not sure exactly where to step, so therefore we say that you shouldn't go up there. There are rabbinic authorities would say we know exactly where to stand, so by them they'll say you could go up there. But even if that would be the case, you got another issue again that we've spoken about a number of times, and that is you're going to stir up the Arabs, and for them it's a religious war. They'll die, every last one of them, because you are really stuffing it in their face. Even though we have a right to the land, we have a right. I mean, there's a problem halachically to go up there, right? And every year, some people try and sneak in the sheep, to try and slaughter it up there. But again, the police won't let you do it. The Arabs won't let you do it, right? So in either case, it's a moot point. We don't have a temple standing today. We have the outer wall. We don't have a temple standing where a person could get a higher level of purity, and therefore, when even Kohanim, right? Even Kohanim today, they're extra careful, even though they're also in a state of impurity. But they are extra careful because of their pedigree, that they won't go to funerals, or if they go to funerals, they'll stay far away I'll say far away from the body, so they don't add impurity. Someone will say, come on, person in a state of impurity anyway, so what's the difference? Right? You're in a state of impurity anyway. So for a Kohen, we're not interested in adding, right? We're not interested in adding to that impurity. So therefore, for them, they have extra obligations, right? They have extra obligations to stay, to try not add on to their impurity. But someone can say, what's different? What in the world's the difference? There's no way to fix the impurity. Until the temple's rebuilt, the Sanhedrin, whatever. There's no way to fix it. Nonetheless, by a Kohen, since they have added holiness anyway, because they have the status of being a Kohen, nonetheless, we say that we don't add on to that impurity, or let's say better, they should not add on to that impurity. So therefore, since they shouldn't add on, even though no way to fix it anyway, it doesn't matter. The fact is, we don't have a way to fix it. No possible way, to fix it. Now, I've heard a number of people say, well, very good. So, let's do it. Let's go back to that level, right? Let's go back to that level of impurity. Well, it's a great idea, right? The only problem is you can't, right? There is no possible way. There is no possible way to do such a thing until the Messiah comes. So you have until that higher level of impurity, is there. But again, so someone imagined the Arabs are gone. They're not totally gone. They're not fully gone. They're whatever. They're up there. They're up there doing whatever they're doing. Doesn't matter. Even if they weren't, right? Let's make it very simple. Even if there were no Arabs out there. Let's say better. There were no Arabs up there. Even if there are no Arabs out there, it doesn't matter. For them, it's a provocation regardless of whether they're there or not. Because they're going to claim we're infringing on their quote-unquote religious territory, even though it's a crime, even though it's a lie, and they know it's a lie. It doesn't matter. They will go to war to the end, to the death of every single one of them, because you're infringing on their turf, so to speak. Right? It's a religious war. That's what, for them, it's a religious war, even though it's based on a lie. But it doesn't really matter, because the fact is, even if there's nobody there, right? We'll make it very, very simple. There are no Arabs up there, so what's the problem? First of all, police won't let you go up there. But what's the problem? The Arabs are going to get all riled up. Even if there's nobody there, it doesn't matter. They'll come there straight away, right? They'll make a whole ruckus straight away. They're right there. They're all over the place in the old city. So it's not going to be hard to get them all riled up, right? So even if nobody's there, it doesn't really matter. The fact is, you're sticking it in their face, even though we have a right to it. No one disagrees, right? They even know that, but you're sticking it in their face, right? Even if it wasn't a halachic problem, right? That's the whole point. Even if it wouldn't be a halachic problem, you have another problem. The second Intifada started with Sharon going up on the Temple Mount for Rosh Hashanah. Now, people can claim they'll make a war anyway. It's just a question of time, when they do it or whatever. Okay. But if a Jew's walking anywhere in the country, does that mean they're just going to start up straight away? No, not necessarily. Right? This is a direct provocation, whether there's anyone up there or not. That's the point. It's a direct provocation. So if it's a direct provocation, you will have blood on your hands. If anyone gets killed because of it, that person has the status of a rodent, has the status of a pursuer. A pursuer, you kill. You kill before you let them do anything. That's putting Jewish lives in danger, right? Not just in Israel. It could be anywhere. They can attack anywhere. But even let's say it's only in Israel, it doesn't matter. You're still putting Jewish lives in danger. Now, people make the claim, well, you can put lives in danger if you walk anywhere. It's not true. They're not going to start up just to start up in general. Some will, okay, but the vast majority will not. They'll need, some sort of provocation, make an excuse to do it, right? Some will say, but in a lot of cases, that's not the case. Okay. But we're not interested in starting up with them. That's the point. We have no interest in starting up with them. That's a direct provocation. Now, people will claim, people will claim if we don't show that it's ours, then that's bad. We have to show, we have to show that it's ours. Okay. But we don't. They know it's ours. And someone there points out, very good, yeah. Jihadists are going to say they're going to make a war all over the place. Okay. So they're going to do, that's their goal. That's their end goal. But what's the point? The point is, you don't want to add fuel to the fire. You're going to say they'll do it anyway. Okay, so do I have a mitzvah to antagonize non-Jews? No. I have no mitzvah to antagonize them. Even if we know we're right, doesn't matter. Meir Khan, Hashem Yikam Damot, rabbis came out very strong against him because that's what he did. They don't disagree with what he said. Many things that he said. Right? Nonetheless, it's not the way. The way is not to antagonize non-Jews, even if you're right. That is not what we do. That's not a Jewish thing to do. That's why they came out against him. Now, again, if you read, a lot of things that he wrote, it's straight from Torah. 100% straight from Torah. No one disagrees. And, he said 40 years ago, more, you're always going to have a problem with the Arabs. And the best way to deal with the Arabs is send them out on naked buses. Send them out on buses. Yeah, that's a great idea. So one problem, the whole world will come down on you like a ton of bricks. But he's right. Nobody disagrees with that. It's 100% right. Right? Japan's the only problem, only one that do not have. I think Poland also maybe. Might not be maybe the only countries in the world do not have a problem with Muslims. You know why? Because they don't let them in the country. That's why I don't have a problem. But from Meir Khan, it was right. It was 100% right. If you don't get them out of the country, you don't send them somewhere, they're going to be a pain in your neck till the end of days. That's what's supposed to be. Now, is he saying the truth? Saying the truth. He's, said that like 40, 50 years ago, and no one wanted to listen to it. And even today, the left will say, no, you can't do that. It's impossible. World opinion, blah, 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 human rights, yeah. They're claiming human rights after October 7th. You got some big time leftists that are, still being held captive. They're still alive. We fed you, we helped you, we gave you jobs. They don't care. Right? That's what people don't understand. They don't care. They care about one thing, killing Jews. That's what they care about. Or killing anyone who doesn't agree with them. Because they want to have this caliphate all over the world. That's what they want to do. It's very clear. Very, very clear. The West doesn't necessarily understand that. They're getting the idea. They are now getting the idea because they see what's going on, but they still don't get it. 100% they still don't get it. Jimmy Carter just, passed away, a tremendous anti-Semite, regardless of what he did with making peace, quote unquote, with Sadat and Begin, and all that. But I want to legitimize Hamas. Come on. I mean, many things he said. Many things. He's a big bald guy, I mean, conceited up the kazoo. Totally up the kazoo. Like, no one can tell him anything. Like, well, what does he know, for goodness sakes? Yeah, he's an anti-Semite. That's what he was. Why did he live to a ripe old age? Good question. Good question. He lived till he was 100. So he must have done something good in his life somewhere. Everyone knows he was anti-Israel. Very clear. Right? Very, very clear. So someone like that, is a thorn in our side for a long time. Yeah, God will take care of him. Why did he give him long life? That's an obvious question. Right? So again, the simple answer is he must have done something. Must have done something good in his life. But okay. But, even within that, people will say, yeah, that's what they're planning. Okay. They don't need an excuse to plan it. I agree. I'm not disagreeing here. Right? Right? I'm not disagreeing. What's the point? The point is we're not making provocation. We don't need to make provocation. Even if there wasn't a problem of going up there halachically, even if there was no such problem, then I would say good. but you don't want to start up with it, right? That's the idea, right? That is definitely the idea. So just because it's permissible, doesn't not everything permissible I should do, right? Who says I should do it? You're starting up with them. I no mitzvah to start up with them. No mitzvah at all, just the opposite. You could cause Jewish people to die. You're putting their life in danger. They're going to claim jihad all over the place. Very good. So you're not doing anything. So they're calling for it. Okay. Well, what's the bottom line here? The bottom line is no mitzvah to provoke them. There's no mitzvah to provoke them. And you're putting Jewish lives in danger. Now, again, what he said, was it true? It's true. Not denying what he said. Other rabbis wouldn't deny what he said. But to say it out there, and put it out there and antagonize people, right? That's what he got in trouble for. Somebody asks, are they remaining present there until they see it for themselves? I'll tell you one thing. What they've been doing for a long time, they've been digging underneath the Temple Mount. Right? It's the well-known thing. They've been digging underneath the Temple Mount. One of the reasons, or potential reasons, one of the potential reasons is because if they find anything there, any, quote, artifacts, they're going to take them for themselves. They're going to hide them. Why are they going to hide them? Very simple, because they don't want to give legitimacy that it belongs to us. Now, also, it's pretty obvious. They built their mosque on top of something. That wall happened to be there 1,000 years before, 1,800 years before, something like that. Right? They know the truth. They absolutely know the truth. Doesn't matter, because they are the biggest liars in the world. They perpetuate the same lies. You know what they say? Say the same lie over and over again. Eventually, people believe it. But so the question is, are they remaining present before relinquishing the Temple Mount to Israel? They're never going to relinquish it, right? Don't make that mistake. They're not going to hand it over. The stupidest thing, one of the stupidest things Israeli did after the 6-Day War was they gave the Temple Mount to the Muslim Waqf. Yeah, because they felt bad. Get rid of the Jordanians and you boot them out and whatever. So okay, so you got to give them a little trinket. You got to give them something. So they gave them the keys to Temple Mount. Insane. They should have taken it over straight away. Why are you going to give it to them? Why are you going to give it to them? They'll never give it back. The Arabs will never, ever, ever give it back. The only way it's going to be given back, well, I wouldn't say be given back, but the temple's going to be rebuilt. That mosque coming down, right? Either it's coming down miraculous, or right, God will knock it out somehow, or they say, I can't verify this, but there is a claim that underneath the mosque is a fault line. In other words, how could the mosque come down according to, quote unquote, according to nature? Earthquake. You have a major earthquake, that gets demolished. Could happen. Right? That's one way it could happen. Right? But the Messiah comes, obviously one of the things he has to do is rebuild the temple. Now, how's he going to rebuild the temple with that thing up there? It's not idolatry. Very good. So what? Coming down. Right? Because any non-Jew that survives, it's going to be a Noahide. So no one, false religion, even if it's closer to being a Noahide. Right? I've heard the claim. Some would say they are, Muslims are de facto Noahides. I don't think it's true. Because all I have to do is prove, according to the Noahide laws, to go against Sharia law. One of them goes against Sharia law. That's it. It's not true. I'm not an expert in Sharia law by any stretch, right? Not claiming to be, but I don't think it's going to be that hard to find one thing in Sharia law that does not apply to Noahide laws. All I need to do is find one. But in either case, a false religion. So if it's a false religion, even if they believe in the same God, doesn't matter. It's a false religion. If it's a false religion, it comes down. Right? And anyone who's a Muslim, unless they repent before they die, right? They are in trouble. Not as bad as idolatry, okay, right? I'll grant you that. Not as bad as Buddhism or what do you call it, or Christianity or any of these other things. Very good. But I would say, even if it's not as bad, then nonetheless, it is still a made-up religion, as the Rambam says. So if it's a made-up religion, that's it. You can't make up a new religion. So they're going to be toast anyway. So again, someone asked, are they going to relinquish it? Nope. As a witness, what's it going to be witnessed to? If they see the error of their ways, and some of them repent, yeah. So yeah, they'll be witness to destruction if they merit it, right? But again, either you're going to hold by the Noahide laws. Doesn't mean you have to convert, right? Either you hold by the Noahide laws or you'll disappear. That's what's going to happen, right? Unless you repent, unless there's repentance. If there's repentance, very good. If not, they're toast. Someone asked like this: if people start chanting Yamach Shemoy B'Zichron, and a person is sleeping, they put them in a trance. Okay, purposely have them wasting the lucid dream. Oh, this is interesting. And they do this on purpose while saying it, right? Is the person whom is sleeping responsible? Interesting. Obviously, the person, if the person is acting against their will, if their free will is taken away, like what happened to Pharaoh, they shouldn't be punished, right? For sure, they shouldn't be punished. They're acting, they're not acting on their own. Their free will is taken away. Now, there is a question. There is a question by Pharaoh. The Rambam asks this, others ask this, and that is, God hardened his heart. If God really hardened his heart, what happens? Why should he be punished? God took away his free will. If God takes away a person's free will, right? We'll ask like this. If God takes away a person's free will, should they be liable? Right? Should they be liable? What's the answer? In theory, they shouldn't be liable. Why shouldn't they be liable? Because God took away their free will, right? So if he took away their free will, they shouldn't be punished. The Rambam goes in great detail, right? Think of the 5th chapter. Think of the 5th chapter of the laws of repentance, explaining why what God did to Pharaoh was okay. Why that if God took away his free will, why does not get punished? Right? Or sorry, let's say better. Why should he get punished? If God took away his free will. Amarebi on that says, and whatever, this is, a scary thing. If we're doing things, let's say, according to our evil inclination, we're giving in to our evil inclination. Who's to say we're giving in to our evil inclination that God is not taking away free will? You gotta say, what do you mean? I got a choice to do this or not do this. Okay. But what if a person, their desires just overcome them, so often, and they can't stop it? Someone who smokes, tell a smoker to stop. If they stop breathing, right? Maybe. Maybe it'll get them to quit. It's a hard thing. Why did tobacco, companies get sued up to Gazoo years ago? Because they put something that was addictive. Right? Now, if you put something in your body that's addictive, now there are all kinds of chemicals that a person will ingest while eating all kinds of things. Plenty of things. Potato chips being one of them, right? Person, has a potato chip. The person going to eat one, not going to eat one. I'm not going to say they're going to eat the whole bag, right? But they'll eat a number of them. Why? Because it's something in the chip itself makes you want to have more, right? There are chemicals they put in the food to do that, right? I'm not necessarily saying in everything, and in a lot of things, it's like that. Now, could a person sue, a company and say, listen, you put this chemical in, you made it addictive, and now I'm 40 pounds overweight and I got diabetes and who knows what? Could you sue them? Wouldn't be able to, if it shows, like by tobacco, that it makes it so much harder to fight against for the sole reason that they put nicotine, which is extremely addictive. Now, if you could prove that, and because of that, you had this desire, and you couldn't kick the desire, but B, you got a good case. That you're so addicted to it, you can't stop eating it. And that's what it causes. So by nicotine, they were able to prove it. That's the main ingredient in cigarettes, yeah? They were able to prove that. It's going to be harder to prove because you got other things going on. You got other things in there. I'm not going to say offset it, but doesn't necessarily mean a person's going to be like so addicted that that's what it's going to cause. But anyway, my Rebbe would ask the question, seen him asking a number of places. How do you know that when a person is, has certain tendencies or whatever, and they give into their evil inclination, how do they know? How do they know their free will has not been taken away? You're going to say, I like to eat this. I eat a lot of it. I do this, whatever. Okay. But who says? Who says it's only because of your evil inclination? Maybe it's more than that. Yeah. And nonetheless, if that would be the case, let's just analyze. If that would be the case, is the person guilty? You'll say, two ways to look at it. You'll say, if I'm being forced against my will, then it's not my fault because I don't have control. On the other hand, you're still penalized. Either way, you're still penalized. So the question is, if someone puts someone in a trance, right? Let's say, and this causes them all kinds of problems. So again, two ways to look at it. A person's free will is taken away, should be exempt. Doesn't matter what you did, necessarily. Right? Let's say, I'll take it another step further. Let's say a person got high or whatever drug it is. They lose control. Or alcohol. They get plastered. Yeah, they're totally plastered. They're not in control. Right? They are not in control. Now, if they're not in control, and they go now and they kill someone, or they cause them damage, but they're not in control. So what are they going to say? They'll say, I'm innocent. They said, that wasn't me doing it. Oh, really? Who was it? Was your, evil twin? Who was it? What's the answer? It was you. Not you, but whatever. It was somebody under the influence. Now, if it's somebody under the influence, you'll say they're out of control. Very good. They're out of control. And if someone's out of control, they're in a car, right? The person drinks and drives, and they are well over the limit, and they kill someone. What's that called? Vacuum or homicide? Called homicide. Now, that's secular law. What about Torah? That's still your action. Doesn't matter whether you're in control or not. That's your action. Now, the question is, what would happen? So that's under the influence, let's say, of drugs or alcohol. What if somebody has schizophrenia? It's a bipolar, incident. What happens to them? Let's say they go out and cause damage. Serious damage. But they're not in the right mind. Right? Do we say because they're not in their right mind, they're guilty? They're not guilty. They don't know what they're doing. They're not in control. Well, what would the law tell you? What would logic tell you? Well, who did the action? They themselves did the action. Very good. They did the action. If they did the action, they're guilty. What do I care they have a mental health issue? What do I care they have schizophrenia? and they go off their medication or whatever it is, they're guilty. They are 100% guilty. They're going to say they don't have money, how are they going to pay it, whatever, but they're going to be locked up in an insane asylum till they get normal, till they get back on medication or they're taken care of, till they're not a hazard to themselves or to other people. Now, Jewish law would say the same thing. They're guilty. It's their action. It's their action. Now, a person can say, but it's not their fault. Well, whose fault is it? They did it to themselves, right? Or even not. They're just not in the right mind. Okay, but they're guilty. Now, according to Torah, normally we say, onus rachmana patre, right? The Gemara says, if a person does something under onus, i.e. they're not in control, they're exempt. Right? They're exempt. It depends what level of being not in control means. If they do it to themselves and they go out of control, that we don't say is onus. It's something beyond their control. Isn't this something in their control? Who says they had to get plastered or do these drugs or who knows what? Who says they had to do it? That's not onus. That's desire. That's what the body needs or they feel. That's what the body wants, whatever the case is. But they go out and do terrible things. Why should they not be guilty? That's not onus. Onus means it's totally beyond your control. This is in their control. They didn't take the medication. They didn't go to therapy, other things, so they spiral out of control. Okay. But essentially, that's not onus. We're not looking at it as, they're totally out of control. We're not saying that. But in this case, you bring up someone sleeping, they were put in a trance. Yeah? And they were convinced to do it, and certain things happen afterwards. That's an onus. That for sure is an onus. You could say, what if they get convinced to kill someone? They wake up, they heard these things, and, now their desire is to go kill someone or who knows what. Now, the person doing it, they're guilty. 100% they're guilty. They're guilty for doing it. But guess what? They have an accomplice. You know what the accomplice is? The accomplice is the one who did it. The one who put them into trance, they're guilty. They're guilty. Right? In other words, they are making them, well, I can't say they're making them, in this case, are they making them a messenger? Let's say in my case, they convince them to go murder someone. So they make him a messenger. Now, the Gemara says it gets more complicated. The Gemara says, ain't shlichut devar avera. There's no messenger to do something that's bad. In other words, if Reuven sends Shimon to do something, and Shimon messes it up, who's guilty? Shimon messes it up. Whatever he did. I'm not talking about murder. Whatever. He was supposed to give something to someone. He lost it. He messed it up. Whatever. Who's guilty? Who has to pay? Reuven or Shimon? Reuven gave this thing to Shimon to give to Levi. Reuven lost it, broke it, I don't know. Whatever he did. Levi says, I want my thing. Right? So now Reuven and Shimon argue. Reuven says, I gave you this thing to give to him. You broke it. You lost it. You have to pay. Shimon will say, it's not my fault. Right? Let's say he's got a good excuse. He wasn't paying attention. He should have been more careful. Very good. He slipped, whatever. He was doing normal things, and something happened. So if that's the case, the Reuven should be guilty. And he has to pay. Right? It's like, Gemara gives a case, or gives, many cases. The person, took his ox somewhere, or let's say borrowed someone else's ox. Very good. Worked it the normal way, and the ox drops dead of a heart attack. Who owes the money? So what's the answer? It depends. If you're working the ox in a normal way, then the one borrowing doesn't have to pay. If, let's say, he took it up on a mountain, there's less air. Yeah. it couldn't breathe or it slipped, then you're liable because you weren't careful, right? Or someone borrowed a car. Case came in Basin once, came in the rabbinical court once. The person borrowed a car, rented a car, or if you're English, he hired it. I don't know, you hire a car, but okay, rented a car and burned out the clutch. So since I had a car, so the rabbis told me, listen carefully, and then we're going to ask you some questions afterwards. I said, all right. So they hear the case. They tell the litigants go outside, and then they look at me and they say, "Is this possible? Is this possible to burn out a clutch?" Now, so my answer was, if they don't know how to drive, they don't know how to drive a stick, very good. Yeah, they'll grind the gears, 100%. The beginning, they'll grind the gears. But eventually they'll get the hang of it. They're not going to ruin the car unless the person's an absolute dimwit, and just like totally grinds the gears for so long and burns out the clutch. Is that possible? It's a little bit far-fetched. I think it's a little bit far-fetched, right? If there's something wrong with the clutch, then they'll burn it out. Then potentially they could, burn it out. So one claim the clutch was bad, right? Obviously the person who rented the car said the clutch was bad. Okay. So therefore, when they drove it and the clutch went out, it's not his fault. He knows how to drive, knows what he's doing, right? Let's say. So it's a problem with the clutch. The other person, who rented it said it was a brand new clutch. Wasn't an old clutch. It doesn't even have to be brand new. Whatever. But it never should have burned out. You burned it out. Now again, the chances of that, it depends. If the person knows how to drive, he's not going to burn out the clutch. Shouldn't burn out the clutch. Even if he doesn't know how to drive, depending on stats of the clutch, still shouldn't burn it out. In general. Unless he really doesn't know what he's doing, and then you're totally grind the gears. Right? That could happen. It's probably rare. Right? So over here it depends. How is this thing being used? If it's being used in a normal way and the thing died, like a friend of mine fixes, small appliances. So he tells people, listen, if I fix it the normal way and the motor dies, you still have to pay me. Right? Because if I do it in a normal way and something happens, then there's something wrong. It's not my fault. Right? If he did something, experimented, and then he blew out the motor, he's liable. Right? It depends. Right? It depends over here. So the point is, if someone got hypnotized, now, and they convinced you to do certain things, right? And you did them. So that could be a total owner. It's not your fault. You wouldn't have done it otherwise. You probably would not have done it. Right? If it's something a person would do, in either case, it doesn't matter often, not often. But now we get suggestions to do it. Yeah. So is that called being under total onus or not? That's the question. That's the question. But if a person never did it, or never really happened so often, then he's under total onus. Not his fault. Right? Why do you have to go through it? Okay, that's a different issue. That I'm not going there. But at the end of the day, if it's a total onus, it's beyond his capability, right? There's no way he could have stopped it. It's not in control. Should be, it should be exempt. I'm only pointing out that it could be. It could be. Maybe God took away his free will. So if God took away his free will, he's guilty anyway. Right? Just like the story of Pharaoh. So so you have to answer according to the Rambam, right? Why Pharaoh is guilty, even if God took away his free will. Right? So, is the person whom sleeping, they put him to sleep. They put him in this trance. They convinced him, whatever. Right? Is he guilty? I would say probably not, because he's convinced. It's against his will. On the other hand, you tell me, no matter. He did the action, regardless of the suggestion or not. Who got free will? Who says he doesn't have free will at that point? You'll say, the free will may be totally limited. Could be. Or God took away his free will, so we'll punish him anyway. Right? And that's what I would say. on that. And someone asked, Hanukkah's on Shabbos, how should we lit the candles on Shabbos? Oh, you don't light on Shabbos. You got to light before Shabbos. Normally, a woman who lights Shabbos candles, she takes on Shabbos, unless she makes a condition. Obviously it's got to be before sundown. But if she makes a condition, because let's say she didn't pray the afternoon service, she didn't pray the afternoon service, and she takes on Shabbos, she can't pray the afternoon service. Why not? Because now for her it's Shabbos. So how can you pray a weekday afternoon service if for you it's Shabbos? So the only way to do that is to make a condition. When a person lit the candles for a woman, right? She lit the candles, she would say, I am not taking on Shabbos. Right? Even though I'm lighting the candles now, I'm not taking on Shabbos. So what you do on Friday before Shabbos, when it is Hanukkah, you light, when a woman's supposed to light the Shabbos candles, let's say outside of Israel 18 minutes before. So before that 18 minutes, you light Hanukkah candles first. Hanukkah candles have to be lit first. If you didn't light Hanukkah candles, but you're running low on time, so you want to light the Shabbos candles first, then 100% when you light the Shabbos candles before the Hanukkah candles, you have to make a condition. And the condition is, I'm not taking on Shabbos. For a guy, you're not taking on Shabbos, even if they lit Shabbos candles. They're not taking on Shabbos anyway. But in either case, Hanukkah candles are lit first. They should definitely be lit first. Right? How should we have lit the candles on Shabbos? Do we need to light the candles on? So no, you don't light them on Shabbos. If Shabbos comes in, you don't light either the Shabbos candles or Hanukkah candles. Nothing to do, right? You can't kindle a fire on Shabbos, even if there's a pre-existing flame. That only works on a festival. On Shabbos, you can't do it. So if Shabbos comes in, you didn't light either Shabbos candles or Hanukkah candles. Let's say Hanukkah candles you didn't light. Very good. So you didn't light them. So what do? Nothing to do. You missed it. You missed that night to light. And Muslims sort of Mizrahi related. They are related in the sense that from the Middle East. They come from this part of the world. Right? That's where the Muslims come from. Right? That's where the Arabs come from. Right? From this part of the world. I mean, they are our cousins. There's no question. Right? But they're from this part of the world. There are other places also, but this is the main part where they're from. You got them in in Morocco and other places as well. But this is the main place. This is the main place where they would come from, right? Because that's where Yishmael was. Someone asked, Arabs left of this world is nothing less than the enemy within. Well, nobody, again, you have a quote unquote nation, but they're not really a nation amongst your people. There's, anywhere the Jews are in the world, there's always a Muslim population nearby. Right? That's not a coincidence. It's always a Muslim population nearby, right? An Arab population nearby. So, at the end of the day, it's not a question of they're the enemy within. They're the enemy from. We know who the enemy is, right? I'll tell people all the time in Israel, you know who the enemy is. It's very clear. Outside of Israel, you have no idea who the enemy might be or not. You have no idea, right? You can have people of different cultures, different faiths, different things. You can also hate Jews. Very good, right? Come across an Arab, a lot of the time they'll hate Jews. That's just the way it is. I'm not gonna say everybody, right? Then everyone call me a racist. Not all Arabs, hate Jews. A lot of them do. But outside of Israel, you don't know. You just don't know. Right? So very easy, you dress like an Orthodox Jew. If you're a guy, you got a target right on your back. You see, but you don't know who the enemy is. You will not know who the enemy is, per se, until they come out. Until they come out and do something. Like someone came here a couple of years ago after October 7th, someone from someone from England, and he said, yeah, I go on the train or the tube, as they call it. Go on the tube. I have no idea. Person sitting next to me, I have no idea what they think. And what they might do or might not do. You have no idea. Here, it's very clear. Here, it's very clear who the enemy is, but that's the enemy from without, not from within. There is an enemy from within. Who's the enemy from within amongst the Jewish people? The Evra, mixed multitude. All right. They've been a thorn in our side forever, right? Until all of them die, all of them are crushed, then the Messiah can come. So the Vilna Gaon, a blessed memory, says, and Evan Shlema, exactly this. Right? He says that in order for the Messiah to come, they'll have to die. Right? They have to be out of this world. Now, who's part of the Evra? Who's part of the mixed multitude? The original mixed multitude was converts coming out of Egypt or other places converted when the Jewish people were going to get the Torah at Mount Sinai, who, started the sin with the golden calf, right? And those are the ones who were wiped out. But the Vilna Gaon says, any secular Jew in charge of any organization or, the Israeli government or whatever, I mean, it doesn't say it was before the Israeli government, whatever, before Israel was a state, quote unquote, or a country, whatever it is. Nonetheless, he spells out exactly who these people are. Right? And so, secular Jews that pretty much, hate Torah, go against Torah, fight against Torah. They're part of the Evra. So that is a whole group within. That's the structure of the Jewish people. Everyone said, here in Israel, more than 1 million Russians come. And, the majority of Russians that came aren't Jews. Now, that poses a bigger threat. Why does that pose a bigger threat? Because Russians, in general, how they grew up as communists. Now, why they come to Israel? Better here. It's only better here than living in, Russia. You get benefits and, different things. So for them, it's better here. The only problem is, most of them are non-Jews. Okay. But if there's ever a war, Marabi said, if there's ever a war, whose side are they going to take? You're like, come on, they get so much benefit, this and that. They hate religion. And just as much as the Arab, they hate religion even more. Right? They hate Orthodox Jews even more. Yeah. So he said, if there's ever a war, God forbid, we know which side they're going to be in. So, it's pretty foolish to bring them in. Right? But why'd they bring them in? And they said this explicitly. Right? The government said this explicitly. Why are we bringing them in? I remember, hearing it on the radio once. That why they're bringing them in. They're bringing them in to offset the ultra Orthodox. That's why they're bringing them in. Right? That's the main reason they're bringing them. Not their love, of Jews, quote unquote, and getting them out and bringing them to Israel. No, they brought them in specifically for the sake of offsetting, the birth rate of the Orthodox Jews. So the enemy. The enemy over here, you have different enemies. You have enemies wanting to destroy the Jewish people from the outside, right? You got the Arabs, you got Asaph, you got the Western world wanting to destroy the Jewish people, right? Physically and spiritually. That was the Greeks, right? Spiritually, even though they made decrees. What did the Greeks want more than anything else? For Jews to be like them. Go to the gymnasiums, go to the universities. They wanted the Jews to be like them, right? So get them, on the other hand, you got the Muslims. They don't want them to be like them. They want them to die, like anyone who's an infidel. Right? So you know who the enemy is. The physical enemy and the spiritual enemy. But amongst the Jewish people themselves, as part of the mixed multitude, right? As part of the mixed multitude will rip the Jewish people apart from within. Because their goal, as the Reform movement started out, their goal is to uproot Torah. That's their goal. They don't have anything to do with Torah and mitzvahs. So they'll have their own thing, whatever they call it. Right? It's not Judaism, but whatever it is. Now, the conservative movement did not start off that way. The rabbis were mostly Orthodox. They wanted to make it more modern for the 20th century, but they're not that not far behind Reform, as we always say. I always used to say they're 10 years behind. I don't even think they're 10 years behind. I'm not even sure they're 5 years behind. Yeah. So even so, right? Even so, their goal was not the same. Their goal was not to uproot Torah and mitzvahs. Now, at one point, the conservative movement was a halachic movement, right? They held according to Jewish law, certain level. Now, today, for sure, it's not the case. 100% it's not the case. So, in general, you get two very divisive movements. That one movement was there to uproot Torah. That was clear, still is clear, even though they don't really know very much. On the other hand, you say conservatives a little bit more. Prayer service is more in Hebrew, right? They cling a little bit more to mitzvahs than the Reform movement. Okay, but it's not saying much. It's like grasping at straws, but essentially that's not really saying, that's not really saying anything. So that's worse, to a certain extent. That's worse because their goal is to destroy Torah. That's the goal. In Israel, it's clear that's the goal. Outside of Israel, it's less, but no great shakes either way. But here they'll fight tooth and nail against Torah. Why? Well, what's a very simple reason? Because in a place where you have the greatest amount of holiness, you have to have a lot of darkness. And a lot of these people, a lot of these secular communists that came, quote unquote, to build up the land, even though students of the Vilna Gaon were here first, right? Historically, they were definitely here first before the secular Zionists. But even so, they came as communists. They came to the land of Israel to build up the land just so they weren't persecuted in Europe and Russia. Why they left? They couldn't live there. Right? Simple, you couldn't live there. Yeah, but their whole system was backwards. The kibbutz movement's disaster. Been an absolute disaster. Right? Since the history of the state's been a disaster. Right? Nonetheless, they weren't interested in Torah mitzvahs. They weren't even interested in ransoming Jews in Europe during the war, which they could have. Because they didn't want, old Jews with their old ways, i.e., ways of Torah. They could have saved tens of thousands of Jews, could have ransomed them. What a desecration of, God's name. Not in the literal sense. But imagine Eichmann gave him an opportunity. Gave him an opportunity to ransom Jews for money. Imagine this butcher got what he deserved in the end, right? But this butcher, this madman, imagine. He's going to say your own people don't even want to save your own people. Kind of disgusting, you think about it. So, yeah, plenty of secular Zionists, have blood on their hands. They could have ransomed thousands. They didn't want. They didn't want old Jews in their old ways. They didn't want. They wanted young people going to help build up the land, no religion. They wanted to be Jews, okay. They wanted Jews to come, very good. So they shouldn't be persecuted, okay. They don't have anything to do with religion. So now imagine generations of kids being educated in that way that don't know nothing from nothing. I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine told me a story many years ago. Hard to believe here in Israel. Even tell me with someone in Timbuktu, I can understand, right? Someone in the middle of nowhere, that I could understand. On Monday and Thursday, they have they have bar mitzvahs at the Western Wall. Right? That's when they read the Torah, Monday, Thursday, right? So they have this bar mitzvah, at the Western Wall. And the secular is really there with his father. Right? They bring out the Torah scroll. I can't make this up because it's what the person told me. Right? I heard it firsthand. And he said that, or I should say I heard it secondhand, but he saw it, right? He saw it happen. And he said the son asked the father when he saw the Torah scroll, he asked his dad, what's that? The kid had never seen a Torah scroll in his life. Now, if you tell me he grew up in the mountains somewhere, he's a hillbilly, a redneck, who knows what, grew up somewhere, I don't know, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, right? Absolutely nowhere. The boonies, as we would say in Boston, or the boondocks, grew up somewhere, I don't know, grew up in Idaho somewhere, no offense. Anyone's potato farmer grew up in Idaho. Grew up somewhere in Idaho, Montana, even better, right? What if animals there? No Jews whatsoever. Probably there's a Chabad house there, I'm sure. But they have no connection, never saw a Jew. All right, sorry, that Jew doesn't know anything from nothing. That I can hear. That I can hear. He never saw a Sefer Torah. He knows before YouTube. Never saw a Torah scroll in this way. That I could hear. But tell me someone grew up in Israel, speaks Hebrew. Yeah. Never saw a Sefer Torah in his life? That's pretty amazing. You have kibbutzim today. It's unbelievable. As secular as they are, they have a synagogue there, which goes against their grain. But some of them come in a little bit back to tradition. But that's not the way it started. That's not the way it started by any stretch. Not at all. And that was their goal. That is how they set up. But imagine the blood they have on their hands. The ability, they could have saved tens of thousands of Jews, of Orthodox Jews. They could have said, any Jews coming out of Europe, they didn't want. Rabbi's Rebbe, Moshe Schneider, blessed memory, wanted to come to Israel. They said no. They told them explicitly. Right? He mentions a lot of his, speeches. He spoke to the yeshiva. He said they told him they didn't want old Jews with their old ways. They don't want Torah mitzvah. They don't want nothing. They want young people going to build up the land, but build it up in a secular way. So Moshe Schneider said, you fools. You guys are contaminating the land, and you guys are going to pay the price. Right? The Jewish people living there are going to pay the price because you're spitting in God's face living there. I want to come and sanctify the land, and you guys don't want one. They wouldn't give him a visa to come. That's how strong the hatred is. But today, the hatred is based on nothing. They don't, all people will say is, you don't do the army, you shirk your responsibility, you don't do anything. You guys are parasites and whatever. But there's a good percentage of Orthodox Jews that work. They make it sound like, every religious Jew that's in Israel doesn't work. And it's just sponging off the government. I mean, the government's not giving them too much money anyway, right? But even, the yeshivas, they get money, that the government gives. It's not even, it's not even a quarter or 1% of the budget. So imagine, budget's $30 billion, right? What's a quarter or 1%? It's a small amount in general. It's 6 billion shekels, whatever. It's like $2 billion, whatever. It's still a lot of money. Okay. But think about it. It's less than that, right? It's a lot less than that. But think about it. Universities get a lot more money. Radio and TV get a lot more money. Other things get a lot more money. This is nothing, but it's a collective group. It's tens of thousands of people not doing anything for the country. They're not working. Well, first of all, it's not true. I'm not even going to the spiritual aspect. But the claim, look at all these people sitting and learning. So, you look at the stats, right? And one of the stats, and this is years ago, right? But you look at the stats, let's say there are almost 7 million Jews here. Now, how many Jews in the world, forget Israel, in the world are sitting and learning full-time over the age of 25? Over the age of 25, meaning they're not working. Now, the Mir Yeshiva in Jerusalem, it's got, 4,000 students, 5,000 students. Panovich has a couple thousand students, right? Let's say. The Mir in America's got like 500, 600. Some other places got 50 here, 100 here, whatever it is. So now let's say I'm in a generous mood here, right? Let's say there are 50,000. It's not even close. Right? Be lucky if it's even 10,000, right? I'm saying over the age of 25. Right. If you're talking about schools and yeshiva students all together, okay, it's a lot more. I'm not talking about that. Over the age of 25. So let's say it's 50,000. It's not. Probably closer to 10,000, not even that. Right? Maybe even half that. Right? Or whatever. Whatever it is. So even we're going to say 50,000. How many Jews in the world today? 15 million, 16 million? Right? So even if you had 50,000, you're like at 0.25%. A quarter or 1%. They're saying, look at all the people sitting and learning, right? Just the opposite. You're going to say, look, we need to boast to the masses. We need more people sitting and learning over the age of 25, sitting and learning full time, not doing anything, not, quote unquote, not working. Again, forget about the spiritual ramifications. That's insanity, right? It is a much bigger issue. You have, a reserve unit of people that, okay, you need a standing army. That's true. So it's a much more volatile issue. you should have more people, in the army. But think about if it's 1,000,000 to 1, you get everybody to join. Even even if even tell me it's a mitzvah, let's say, right? It's a mitzvah. Okay, so everybody gets called up. Very good, very good. That would be the case. Even the time of King David, you had a standing army, but you had people learning also. So you didn't have everybody fighting. You need the spiritual with the physical. Very good, but it's a much more volatile issue. You're gonna say, why should my kid go on the front lines and possibly get killed and you're not doing anything? Well, it's not true, we're not doing anything. Right? But again, even with that, what are the numbers? The numbers not even close. It's just that it looks skewed. Because there you got a whole population, the numbers are greater because, kids in yeshiva today, right, over the age of 18. So that you got higher numbers. You got much higher numbers. Right? They're learning. But again, in every country, now this might not be a good argument, but in every country, you always had people who were, priestly, whatever, they weren't part of this. They were separate. Right? Even Pharaoh got that right. When it came to enslaving the Jewish people, the only group of people that were not enslaved by Pharaoh were who? The Kohanim and the Levites. He gave them an exemption. They didn't have to go in. They weren't enslaved. So even Pharaoh got the idea. Right? But again, you can say, well, it's not a good argument. Here you're talking about going to war. So again, if we had Norim Tumim, and a Kohen, a Kohen could ask the question, and the Kohen would say, should we all go to war or not? And then, the breastplate would light up, say yes, no, whatever it is, which is a form of prophecy. Very good. Yeah. So if it's a war that everyone has to go, everyone has to go. Even if someone just married for the first year, they have to go. Now, people say this is an absolute war. What happened after October 7th, everyone should go. Yeah. But again, there are other issues, but it's they called up more than 300,000 people. More, and people came even when they weren't called up. So I feel it's a responsibility. Okay, but you still need both. But again, what's the claim here? So the big issue is they'll say, we'll let you take 2,000, 3,000 of like the brightest of the brights, and you give us a certain amount of others. But what's the problem? You'll say, well, we got religious units. Okay, so they'll all go into religious units, right? Let's say, right? Let's say, but the place of the army is a problem. It's a serious problem, right? You got young kids there, and I had this argument with someone a number of years ago, and back and forth. Finally, I said, listen, on the books, and this is still the law today, if a woman is in the army and she gets pregnant, she has the ability to have 3 free abortions. That is on the books. After I said that, this person that was it. That was the end of the conversation. I said, what do you think is going on in the army? So he said, okay, you have separate units is better. True. Very, very true. And if a person's not learning, maybe it's good for them to be in the army. Good. Maybe that is true. Yeah. They get disciplined to other things, and help them in other ways in life. Okay. But what's the goal of the army? See, they lie through their teeth. What's the goal of the army? The goal of the army is to make a religious Jew sanctuary. That's the goal. That's what they want. Forget about they're not going to give you time to learn, give you time to pray, this and that. That's not even the point. They want you to be like them. Exactly like the Greeks. Exactly like the Greeks. Now, if that's the case, you got to be off cotton picking heads, sending your kid there. Now, if the kid's not holding there anyway, right? Okay, maybe it's better for them. Maybe. Right? Now, I have a son-in-law went in the army, came out stronger than when he went in. Okay. It can happen. It normally doesn't. Normally the other way. Normally they get much weaker because of all the things they see and they hear and whatever. Right? That's what they want. They'll say, not true. We'll give you a right to do this and give you time to do that. Right. It's all rubbish, as English would say. It's rubbish. Why is it rubbish? Because that's their goal. Their goal fundamentally is to make it an Orthodox Jewish secular. That is their goal. They want to what we call shmad them up. They want to, brainwash them. That's what they want. Put all these ideas in their head, whatever. So I'll tell you, I'm sure it's better today, but I'll just tell you a story. I sat in Baston many years ago. They have an ultra Orthodox group that goes in the army, right? They call it Netzach Yehuda, right? It's that's what it's called. There was a guy there, came to my Rebbe's Baston. He went AWOL, right? He fled. He left. What happened? Again, it's probably better than it was back then. But what happened? I was there. I heard the story. So he said, we were there on Shabbos. We were there on whatever, this base, whatever, on Shabbos. And the army deliberately brought women to the base, brought people with guitars and who knows what. And that's what happened. So he went AWOL. He went AWOL from the army. Now again, I'm sure it's much better today than it was. Very good. Yeah. But, we'll let you do certain things up to a certain point, but what's their end goal? That is their end goal. They'll claim and say, no, we want them to share the burden and that's what they want and blah, blah, blah. Their end goal is to make an Orthodox Jewish secular. That's their end goal. That's their end goal, right? So that's the problem. That's the problem. Now, if you tell me that we have an Urim V'Tumim, and you tell me that the Kohen Gadol says, okay, everyone has to go, then everyone has to go. People say, well, isn't this the case? It should never have been the case. This should never have been the case. Books are going to be written, and I'm sure people are writing them right now. Head's going to be rolling, right? Because of this. This never should have happened, according to nature. According to nature, shouldn't have happened. They should have been able to control it. Not only should they have been able to control it, even if some people would have been killed, God forbid. Even if, some people in these kibbutzim got killed. Okay. It would have been what happened. Not even close. Right? Not to mention, hostages being taken and, and everything else. This is a major, major screw up by the army. No question. Some say it was planned that way, whatever. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories, but it's kind of interesting. The army didn't do anything for hours. For hours, they didn't do anything. They could have. Right? It seems pretty clear they could have, but okay. I'm not, not a conspiracy theorist by nature. But they got caught. Seriously got caught. So even though you tell me it's true that this country's going to survive on their reservists, and the reservists coming up every 2-3 months, whatever, go in for a couple of weeks, or I think it's like a couple of weeks a year, or a month a year, whatever it is. Okay, that's part of having to stand. You have the army, very good, right? But if you're in control, which you should be, in general, according to nature, this never happens. If this never happens, it's not a normal war. Normal war, you flatten them like a pancake. It's all they talk about. They got the strongest army in the world. They go in. I don't, I'll get into politics here, but I want to set the record straight. They should flatten them like a pancake, an absolute pancake. And what happened? They got seriously caught. I'm just talking about what happened in Gaza. Totally got caught off guard. Never should have happened. Say, but the fact it happened, what would have mattered if there were tens of ultra-Orthodox Jews in the army? How would that have stopped anything? Wouldn't have. Because the bottom line is God wanted to happen. Why? And again, we'll state clear, this was a decree made by Rosh Hashanah. And the decree was carried out. Did it help they desecrated Shabbos? No. Did it help they played music there? No. Did it help they desecrated a festival? No. Did it help they had a Buddha there? No. Totally didn't help. That wasn't the reason. All these people were gathered there because God wanted this to happen. Why? Any number of reasons. Could be any number of reasons, but that's not the reason, because the decree was already made. But even so, what did God show? The army's not invincible. Now, it's the strongest army in the Middle East. No one disagrees, right? It could be Hezbollah's better trained. Okay, but flatten them also. But that could be the case. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They should have much greater control than that. That never should have happened. Well, what had happened? Because God wanted it to happen. But even so, what are all these reservists? What would have helped? What would have helped? They were caught off guard. People they caught said, we would have thought, maybe we would have killed some, whatever. They would have thought in a million years what would have happened. They admitted it shouldn't have happened that way. They mentioned they were planning this stuff and they knew about it. I don't know. Whatever it is. But having ultra Orthodox Jews in the army at that point would have done anything. Would not have done anything. So you need people to serve, true. You need people to pray for them. And a lot of people in the army, no atheists in the foxhole, they're all wearing tzitzis because they know. And they want people to pray for them. And they, many got tremendously emotional that they had Jews learning for them, praying for them. That meant something. Even if they were secular Jew, doesn't matter. It meant something. Right? There's no atheist in the foxhole. I had someone once tell me, this person's sick, you have to pray for them. You should pray for them. A much older person. Now, okay, so they're close to giving the Torah Mount Sinai, but they don't know nothing from nothing. I always want to say when I hear this, what do you care? Why do you think prayer is going to help over here? Yeah, I know what the answer be stuff right back in my face. So come on, what do you mean? Prayer means something. I may not believe in God the same way you do, but I still believe in God, and whatever. Because there's no atheist in the foxhole, bottom line. Right? That's the bottom line. But think about it. It desecrate Shabbos. They desecrate Yom Kippur. They desecrate Rosh Hashanah. All the holidays, everything. Marry non-Jews, let's say. But you still pray for me. Why should I pray for you? How's that prayer going to help? Tell you a scary thought. Brisker Rav says, Brisker Rav, blessed memory, someone asked about praying for someone else. So the Brisker Rav says, Rabbi Zev Soloveitchik, blessed memory, says that to pray for someone who's not holding anywhere in the world, you want them to get well or whatever, or do tshuva or repent. He says, the Brisker Rav, they have to be a vessel. If they're not a vessel for repentance, all the prayers in the world don't help. Now that's a scary proposition. Why? Because everyone's going to say, what do you mean? Shouldn't we pray for secular people? Sure. Right? Isn't that true? That's true. Yeah. Everyone can repent, says the Brisker Rav. You got to be a vessel to repent. If you're not a vessel to repent, knock it out. No, not everyone holds that. Think about it. You want someone, I don't know, somebody's sick. They want you to pray for them. Now, even if they get better, is that going to change them? Probably not. But deep down, they say there is something in prayer. You hold by prayer, so help me. They don't believe in anything else. Right? They don't believe in anything else. But what are they going to answer? What in the world are they going to answer? They're going to say, come on. Prayer is something. I may not believe the same, but it's something. Yeah, a lot of questions here. Let's see. There was no Jordan until Britain. Yeah, all these other quote unquote countries. There's no Palestinian people either. They didn't exist, right? Yeah, Jordanians there. You had Lebanese there. Egyptians there. You had all kinds of people there. There were no Palestinians, right? That's for sure, right? But the whole idea itself doesn't make sense, right? One of the biggest lies in the world. Right, is that there was this group, but someone says the record is Palestine under the Romans. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. They had the Philistines. Philistines are not Palestinians. Anyway, even for a Muslim, they don't have a word P in their language. So it's like Alistidine. It's like, silent H, like for, people in the States will say bit of herbs, not herbs, right? So it's like that P doesn't exist. So like for them, right, it's kind of ironic. So there was no group though. But let's think about it this way. You go back to Mark Twain, right? Samuel Langhorne Clemens, as he was known, wrote Mark Twain and Huckleberry Finn. Sorry, wrote Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. So he came to Israel in the late 1800s, late 1890s, late 1880s, 1890s. He came to Israel, there was nothing there. Nothing. The place was flattened like a pancake, and he wasn't a religious person. He said exactly what the prophets say. Flattened like a pancake. Now, you want to claim, so I was going to say, it's recorded as Palestine under the Romans. Okay, what happened to them? You're talking under the Romans, you're talking more than 2,000 years ago. So what happened to them? Where are they? They want to tell me they flourished, they came back, or whatever. Where were they during the time of the Ottoman Empire in the 1800s? Were they, were they under the Turks? Were they under the British? Were they under the Crusades? There's nobody here. Essentially, nobody here. So Mark Twain came in the late 1800s. Nobody here. You had marauders from different countries, different groups, this and that. They didn't have anything. Imagine like they were complaining, you took our land in East Jerusalem. There was nobody. There was no group. Who made them? Israelis made them. They made them their own people. They didn't exist. Jordan was on one side of the river, right? Right? Yeah, these other groups, different places, but nobody had anything. They didn't have anything. If you want to tell me that it was recorded that Palestine was under the Romans, so where are they? You're talking 2,000 years ago. Okay, so where are they? They disappeared. They totally disappeared. You want to tell me before that? Sancheiriv messed up all the nations. So there is no, either Muslims are going to say we go straight to Yishmael. How can that be? How can they have clear-cut proof that's true? If Sancheiriv took all the nations and, totally mixed everybody up, how can they say they come clear to what do you call it? To Yishmael. They can't make such a claim. So all the nations are totally messed up. If all the nations are messed up, so no one can claim anything. We can still claim we're Jewish, that's a different issue. But the other nations can't say we go directly here, directly there. The nations were totally messed up. You're going to say, then they regrouped. But again, go to modern history. Go to modern history. What does modern history tell you? There was nobody here. Nobody. The Ramban came to Jerusalem. Yeah, the Ramban lived, there 1100, 1100, whatever it was. You couldn't even find 10 Jews. Forget non-Jews. Forget Bedouins or whoever. There's nobody here. Couldn't find 10 Jews to make a minyan, to make a quorum in Israel. In Jerusalem. Couldn't find 10 Jews. So where's everybody? The place was flattened like a pancake. There's nobody here. You would have records of them, protests, people complaining, they stole our land, they took this, they took that. You don't have any of that. They'll claim after the fact, we stole their land. Well, didn't Montefiore give, Jewish people the land? A good chunk of the land? He bought it. He bought it legally. Did I say I wasn't going to get into politics? He bought it legally. So what's the complaint? And now it's on the books. If an Arab sells land to a Jew, death penalty. Makes sense. Want to rewrite history. Very good. They're the greatest revisionists in the world. Greatest, because they're the biggest liars in the world. Yeah. Someone asks, it seems like the person is aware of the action or they're going along with it. How does it follow them if they are in dreamlike reality? Again, the question is if they're under total onus. They're under onus. So if they're under onus, why should they be liable? Right? So I would agree. They shouldn't be liable. But the question is, if they're programmed, then they lost their free will. So I would agree. If they lost their free will, then they shouldn't be punished. But then the question is, if God took away their free will, he can punish them. Just like Pharaoh. That's exactly what the Rambam says in the laws of repentance. He says if you don't have it, God takes away your free will, takes away his free will, he's still punishable. So he goes through the whole thing. Why? So on that, my Rebbe said it could be. Maybe we're doing certain things. Maybe we're in our own trance. Maybe our free will has been taken away. True. Maybe. But just because your free will has been taken away doesn't mean you don't get punished. You have to understand why you should get punished. But I would agree. The other side seems stronger. He shouldn't be punished. Should not be punished. Right? We have to go through the Rambam over there to see why Pharaoh gets punished. But if my Rebbe would say that it could be our free will is taken away and we're doing certain things. Now, again, even if that would be true, am I guilty? That's the question you got to ask. Am I guilty? You should be guilty. You should be guilty. What if it's a dreamlike reality? Again, a person under, you don't even have to say they got, what do you call it? They got, what's the word? They got put in this trance. Yeah. You don't have to come on to that. Right? Person's on drugs. Aren't they in their own reality? They're in their own reality. They convince themselves, whatever reason, but they're not in control. So even they do it to themselves, they're liable. 100%, they should be liable. But you say, you take a person, you put them in a doll, you prick the doll like voodoo, something like that. And they're controlling the person. The person doesn't have free will in that case. So they don't have free will in that case. They shouldn't be liable. I would agree. I'm just pointing out that if their free will is taken away, God took away their free will, could be they could still be liable. They could be liable in that case, like Pharaoh was. Or it could be Pharaoh's just an exception. And other people have their free will taken away. Not that way, but my Rebbe doesn't say that. He said that their free will is taken away, could very well be. They're still going to be liable because God's going to punish you anyway. That's the answer. Right? But you'll tell me, but he's on their own, it's not in control. Okay, I agree. I didn't say I disagree with that. I'm just telling you what my Rebbe says. Right? And he points out your free will could be taken away, and he's still going to punish you, even if your free will is taken away. That could be. Let me see other questions here. Sounds like someone under the zombie powder. It could be. Right? It could very well be. But so the question is, who's really in control? That's the question. Someone asked him really take Pharaoh's free will. He took over. That's the Torah says. Right? What's the question? The Torah says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Now, why are we going to say he didn't do that? He did it. The question is, okay, if God Pharaoh, why did he harden his heart? Why did he make him like a dumbbell and just keep punishing, and he saw every time he didn't do what God told him to do, he got punished more. Right? God took away his free will. I mean, there should have been a coup. They should try to assassinate him. Some say there was an attempt that didn't work, but that they want to get rid of Pharaoh because they're getting pummeled. So he's there. He's like in a zombie trance. 100%. And then why was he in the zombie trance? Because the Torah tells me God hardened his heart. Right? So what does that mean in the vernacular? He took away his free will. God took away his free will, period. That's what the Torah says. Right? He's still, now, taking away his free will, does that mean he could never have acted in a good way? He still had that chance. He still had a chance to overcome this. But it's going to be really hard. He could have had 1% free will, but okay, 1% free will is not going to help him here. Right? His free will is taken away. And his free will is taken away to the point where God punished him severely for, even though he took away his free will. Again, that asks the question, why is he guilty? Why should God punish him? It's not fair. Right? It's not fair. Right? That's the question. What's worse? Those Russians are converted to Christianity. Right? I don't think it doesn't matter. They're not Jewish. Right? The Russians that came here, most of them are not Jewish. So 90% or 99% are not Jewish. So yeah, it is a problem if they convert to Christianity, then they become idolaters. Being an atheist also is just as bad. if not worse in a certain way, right? Because then they don't believe in any higher power, right? That's Amalek, right? They don't believe in anything supernatural. So is that worse than idolatry? Seemingly idolatry is worse, right? Idolatry seems to be worse, right? But we're still living in an Amaleki world, right? The plenty of people don't believe in the supernatural. Now, if you believe in the wrong supernatural, it's just, it's worse. Death penalty, right? Death penalty. But also, if we knew who Amalek was today, you could kill them also death penalty, right? It's also just as bad. Somebody here says, our rabbi said that before Yaakov came to Egypt, Joseph already decreed, priests of any nation shall not be slaves. Okay. But would still get food. So when Yaakov came down, it was already decreed that the Levites be left alone. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Somebody asked, they kept the land they had. Okay, so they, but again, the Arabs have no claim. I'm not even talking from a Torah perspective, right? Why not? Because if you tell me that they have the land and they were here and they were a significant entity, okay, we'll have a discussion. God giveth, God taketh away, right? I don't even have to come on to that because the reality is they didn't. And they were not an entity until we made them an entity. So the Israelis made them an entity. But they were never here, period. Right? They were never here. Somebody asks, working my way through here, that they saw a documentary, they had communist propaganda, yeah. The first Jews that came, they're all these secular Zionists, they were communists, 100%, right? 100%. Yeah. Let me see. Anyone else? Israel most likely agree. Yeah. Yeah. The problem is most people don't know history. And the same lie gets perpetuated. They're still saying in the media, and they keep saying the same thing over and over. When Israel went into Gaza, 40,000 people killed, right? Women, children, killed, massacred, from all this bombing and whatever. Now, it would be true, which is not. But even if it would be true, nobody cares a rat's tail that they're hiding behind human shells. Nobody cares. I've seen people make the argument. I've seen people make the argument, and people on the other side, they don't care. They don't look at that as a viable argument. Hezbollah had, they paid people to put missiles, in their living rooms or whatever. Paid them. So Israel said, okay, you're shooting missiles. We find out where it's coming from. That's a military target. That's fair. Oh, what do you mean? It's the whole family living there. Civilians. I don't know. It's a military target. Shooting missiles from a place. But nobody cares about that argument. It's mind-blowing. That's how strong the lie is. Right? That's how powerful it is. Nobody cares about the truth. Nobody wants the truth. It's like fantasy. And the anti-Semites will keep saying the same thing. Right? Why don't they care they're using human shields? Well, that's how you fight. Okay, so they're going to get killed. People are going to get killed. It's their own fault. They have blood on their own hands. It's a way of war. And if that wasn't the case, they brought it upon themselves. Look what they did on October 7th. They brought it on themselves. And then you get some maniac saying that's a legitimate way of defense. Really? You want to fight the enemy, fight the enemy. What does that have to do with taking people hostage or raping women? Or burning people alive? That's the way of war? I mean, it can happen. But no one says, it is ironic. I've seen many people post this, where are all the women's rights activists? Where are all these groups? So many people raped, brutalized. None of these, feminist groups said anything. Nothing. Not even a whimper. Yeah, let me see. The world was partying, was looking for something. Yeah. All right. How to really deal with this worldwide because all leads up to more of it. Yeah. Problem. Right. In other words, how are people going to move living around from native land to claim we owned it? Okay, if a person doesn't believe in the Torah, they don't believe in the Torah. Very good. So, what we'll say? We'll say that might makes right. We own the land now. Right? Forget about Torah. We have the land. Forget about God gave it to us. God give it, God take it away. I don't even have to come on to that. We own the land. We took the land back. Who in the world has ever given land back in a defensive war? In history, nobody. There was in the 70s, there was a population of exchange between India and Pakistan. Okay. In a defensive war, they gave land back. Or they gave land back. It's unheard of. Google it in history. It's unheard of. Yeah, you mentioned about the Indians. Great. They're all sniffing aerosol cans on reservations, and having casinos. Okay, that was their compensation. They butchered most of them. Yeah, totally butchered them. Right? So everyone's going to claim, okay, they own the land. Very good. They were given an opportunity. They were given an opportunity to be like us or die. They said, we got bow and arrows. They go, we got guns. Guns always win over bow and arrows, right? Usually. Who's going to give the land back to them? They ain't giving the land back. They're not, they'll give them some reservation somewhere, and that's it. They're giving them the vast majority of the land they took. Yeah, I'm talking buying. Forget buying. They took it illegally. Yeah, they just took it from them. Okay, who's giving it back? Government's going to give it back? Who's giving it back? No one's giving it back. So our political cartoon ones. They're talking about giving land back to the Arabs. So someone says, okay, first got to give California, New Mexico, back to and Texas back to the Mexicans. Got to give Florida back to the Spanish, and then you got to give all the land back to the Indians. Then we'll talk about land for peace. Yeah, well, they're not going to do that. I don't see that happening. Not my lifetime, my kid's lifetime. Never going to happen. Right? They got the land. It's there. It's fair and square. They got it. Might makes right. You want to take it away? Oh, you're a big bully. You took it. You stole it for them. They're not getting it back. They are not getting it back. Right? The Arabs were never an entity. They don't deserve it. And even if we say they were. Right? Let's say someone's going to bring some claim from somewhere and say they really had it. It's really stolen from them. Very good. So now you want to give it back. Now, who are you going to give it back to? Practically speaking, who are you going to give it back to? Each one is just as bad. They're both the same. They want to destroy Israel. That's, Palestinian, quote unquote, their charter calls for destruction of Israel. They're more moderate than Hamas. They're the same. They haven't changed that. That's never going to change. They don't want a two-state solution. They want a one state without Israel. That's what they want. Pretty clear. So even, I did hear recently, somewhat talk of a two-state solution. Who's the other side? Who are you dealing with on the other side? That even like you'd have a discussion with? And nobody. I mean, that's just insanity. Totally insanity. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Someone asked, everyone forgets the most important part of what Job said after God took him away. Blessed be the name of Hashem. Yeah, that's it. That's all we have. I mean, we're living here miraculously. There's no question. I mean, trying to fight seven-tier war. It's in a small country. That's it's kind of hard. But they made clear. They made clear. Yeah, to the Houthis, okay, you're going to continue. You'll end up like Hamas. You'll end up like you'll end up like Hezbollah. Yeah, now they're hard to get to. They're kind of like Afghanistan. You have to blow up the whole country because they're hiding in the mountains. They got these things well on the ground, so it's like you can't go on the ground. Right? It's a very hard thing. They can't go on the ground. They're in the mountains. And these mountains, you can't penetrate it. Right? It's very hard. That's very hard to stop. But like, so this isn't even the war. You're just identifying with Gaza, what happened in Gaza, but like there's nothing to do with it. Essentially, nothing to do with it. Someone has said, I heard a Muslim woman say a Muslim fighter can rape any woman taken in war. Yeah, yeah, and they're gays or whatever, very pro Palestine, so they interview quote unquote a moderate quote unquote, Palestinians. So what about gay people? So yeah, they should be tortured, raped, killed. I'm like, oh, we don't believe in this. We're not going to be, we're not going to be pro Palestinian. Yeah, that's what they believe. That's 100% what they believe. Now people say, oh, the radicalized. That's who they are. That's exactly who they are. People have to see what don't make any bones about it. They're not hiding behind anything. They make it very clear. They want any infidel dead. They want to make the caliphate. That's what they want. All over the world. So I would agree that that's going to be the case. They don't need any, they don't need any provocation. That's what they want anyway. That's true. But we don't have to add fuel to the fire, right? That's what we said before. That's exactly what we said before. Someone here mentions, great, the land's being fought over is the one we have receipts for. Listen, not according to having receipts. God said, land belongs to us. It's pretty clear. Even the Muslims, the Quran say that. Even the Quran says that belong. It's pretty clear. But okay, interpret it however they want to interpret it. But again, even if we would say it belongs to them, let's say, in practical terms, let them take it. Let them take it. Nobody's ever given land back in a defensive war. It's never happened. Never happened in history. Why are we going to start now? Because Israel's different. Good. Israel's different. Well, who cares? You wouldn't say that anywhere else. How many people did, when America went into Iraq? Killed thousands, blink of an eyelash. Anyone say anything? No. Assad killed 600,000 of his own people. Anyone say anything? No. It's only against us. So we're held to a higher standard. That's the bottom line. We're held to a higher standard. Even, you got to be more humane. No one else is more humane. We're doing our best, but no one else is more humane. Why are we held to a higher standard? A double standard at that. Why are we held to a higher standard? Shouldn't be. What are you talking about? Because we're chosen people. Nothing to do with it. Right? Should never be held to this. If you want to hold other people to it, good. Make it universal. The fact that we always get condemned. Any other countries condemn, I don't remember, the UN, the whole UN. Any other nations, put up a resolution condemning America for going in or Syria for doing what they did. No one said anything. Anyone condemn what happened in Rwanda back in the day? Hutus against Tutsis. Anyone make a UN resolution against genocide on them? Pretty quiet. All these things are very quiet. Israel's been condemned more than anyone else exponentially in the UN. And they're the biggest ally they have in the Middle East. Makes no sense. Logically makes no sense. Well, to a standard, it's impossible. They do it, they're trying to be as humane as possible. That's what they're doing. But using human shields, I mean, what did Biden and his idiots say? Like, come on, you're killing people, you can't do that. Oh, really? And what you did is better. And the human shield, we don't care if the human shield. What do you mean you don't care? How could you not care? It's mind-boggling. As a student of history, it's mind-boggling that's what they're doing, and no one gives a rat's still. Nobody cares. Because we're held to a different standard. You say, well, isn't God holding us to that standard? No. God's not holding us to that standard. Right? We do it. It's pikuach nefesh. It's saving lives. That's what you do. You do your best to mitigate people being killed. But what can you do? The Gemara says you kill before someone kills you. There's no innocent people here. Some people make a big mistake also. The quote unquote, people of Gaza, when they were being paraded, these Israelis, El Cap or whatever. Oh yeah. They were against it. They were then, come on. They kept people alive so they watched them loot their houses. They're animals. It's what they are. They're animals. No good way to say it. That's what it is. And nobody cares. To the extent people are making this claim and there's silence. People are making the claim we're all the feminist groups. It doesn't happen anywhere else. Any other countries. Doesn't have, women are raped and brutalized and this and that. All these feminist groups come out of the woodworks. All of them. Making protests, all kinds of things, social media, whatever. Silence. Silence. Let me see. Other questions here. Freedom comes at a heavy price. Okay, what are you gonna do? It's the only way to stop it. It's the only thing they understand. Yeah, they had to go in and kill thousands. How many thousands terrorists they killed? Yeah, there were some innocent people killed. Okay, but it's part of war. They killed thousands of these people. They're still killing. They attack, they get killed. It doesn't end because they don't want it to end. You pay a price. You paid a serious price. All these soldiers being killed. You paid a price for sure. But that's what happens in war. And this would happen, in other places. If you're being attacked by a neighboring country, you're going to go in and do whatever you can to stop it and flatten them like a pancake. We have to show restraint. They're sending hundreds and thousands of missiles. Where's the restraint? Where are the, if this was Texas and Mexico was throwing, missiles, day in and day out in Texas, they'll flatten Mexico like a pancake, right? No Taco Bell, no burritos. It's over. It's game over. People can't live. What happened, when the Americans told people to, manifest destiny, go from New York to California, right? Go settle the land out there. Well, they were getting attacked by Indians. They were getting attacked left and right by Indians. So they sent back, they said, listen, we're willing to come out here, but you got to protect us. If you don't protect us, why should we be out here? So cavalry came and killed all the Indians. You can't have an enemy within. You just can't. Right? You can't be in fear that you're always going to be attacked and you can't live. And that was the craziest thing of all, is that Hezbollah had nothing in this war. It had nothing to do with it. Right? But they have they had 150,000 missiles. They just kept shooting missile after missile after missile, day in and day out. Yeah. Okay, they got pummeled. Good. No other country would tolerate such a thing. Yeah. True, Israel has the right to defend themselves. Good. But they have to be extra careful not kill other people, innocent people. What? You say that in any other country? You make that claim anywhere else? They never did. They make that claim. Only against us? Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling, think about it. Let me see. Same thing against yeah. They're still looking for weapons of mass destruction, which they never found. That was all a whole other thing. Right. So, the question you have to ask is, isn't it better that Saddam Hussein's not in the world? I think everyone agree. I think definitely everyone agree that, it's a good thing he's not around, even if they didn't find weapons of mass destruction. It's good to get this menace out of there because Israel's going to try and take over, Kuwait or whatever, 70% of all the oil. Makes sense? So they had a vested interest. They for sure had a, vested interest. So yeah, you blow up half the country looking for Bin Laden. Very good. We cared. Quote unquote innocent people, they didn't care. Israel's held to a different standard, right? That's the bottom line. But it's mind-boggling, right? Mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. um, then people can still believe it and say at the same time, they can say, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. But again, what does that mean? What does that mean? You kill one innocent person, they get, you know, people flabbergasted. You can't do that. You got to be a lot more careful. They've done everything in their power. Even American generals agree. They're most humane, army in the world. And still they get flattened like a pancake. So, like, I would just say, screw the world. You got to do what you need to do. But the problem is, or the problem was, Biden's going to come along and say, we're not going to give you weapons. Right? Even during the 6 Day War, because they didn't want to give weapons. They were running out of bullets. They were running out of bullets. So they finally agreed. I just saw that, Biden agreed to release, $8 billion of, whatever, do a goodwill gesture before he leaves, before he leaves office, but this is your only link to the Middle East. Everyone else you can't trust, in which most people, finally think understanding that if you don't stop it here, they're going to go all over. They have all these proxies everywhere. So if they don't nip it in the bud here, make it worse. So they demolish Hezbollah. So now Syria falls, right? So now Hezbollah is a shell of what it was. And the problem is now that Iran can send weapons relatively freely to the Houthis, right? But the Houthis are sitting ducks, right? In a certain way. They got no way to stop missiles. They got no way to stop them flying over and shooting at them. The problem is they're in the mountains, so it's like very hard to get them. Very, very hard to get them. But like they're sitting ducks. They're absolutely sitting. Israel can do whatever they want to them. They have nothing. They have no planes. They have no way to take out their planes, right? They have no missiles to take out their planes, right? So like they're sitting ducks. Problem is they're being egged on by Iran. That's the problem. So, I guess they'll believe in the cause, but it's much harder, much, much harder to get them. First of all, they're further away. And second of all, they're not in normal places, right? Blow up half of Afghanistan, blow up half of Yemen. Okay. But, much harder to get to them. They don't necessarily have as many missiles either. They only send one or two when they send them, right? But, it can end up anywhere. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer for that. It's very hard. Very hard to take them out. But America's gonna get involved because they're creating havoc on the seas. You got tankers and different boats coming, bring food supplies to other places, whatever they're selling. And they're getting stuck. They're getting attacked by the Houthis. All 50 of them. I don't know how many Houthis live, in there, but they're causing havoc on the sea. It's causing trade problems. So they have to get involved also. But again, much harder. Much harder. It's really a no-win. It's a no-win. Situation. But you got to stop it. There's no question. You absolutely have to stop it. But you have other groups. You have other groups of Muslims all over Europe, right? They have cells all over Europe, silent minorities. And they're over time, they're having birth rate exponentially. No one in Europe's having kids, so like over time they're going to be a real threat. They're sure going to be a real threat, right? So it's an issue. That's for sure an issue. So, but the saving grace is this is what's supposed to be at the end of days. This is exactly what's supposed to be, right? You got Yishmael against Edom. Yishmael is the Muslims, the Arabs, against the Western world. That's what you have. That is what's being set up. That's what the Malbim sets up, right, for the end of days. And the Malbim says they're going to be fighting, going to be a bloodbath. They're going to say, why are we fighting against each other? It's all the Jews' fault. They're going to come to march to Jerusalem, and that's going to be coming the Messiah in the beginning of the end. But, that's get a lot worse first. It's pretty bad as it is, but, seemingly has to get worse. But you see the writings on the wall. and you see what's going on in Europe. See what's going on in Ireland. See what's going on in England. I got these migrants coming in or whatever, like causing havoc, causing absolute havoc. So it's a powder keg. The whole place is a powder keg. So on the one hand, that's good because that should bring the end. That should bring the end of days. We also have to survive, but at the end of the day, it's a scary proposition. It's much scarier when with Hezbollah and Hamas together. But now both of them pretty much been flattened like a pancake. I mean, okay, but you can't let them regroup. And I think Israel last week, I think they destroyed, I don't know, a tunnel like 2 kilometers long or more. I mean, it's insane. All the money that everybody gave them, they used to build tunnels in suburban areas. Under hospitals, under people's homes. That's what they did. That's what they did with all this money. Then people claim people are starving. Even if it be true, which it isn't, but even if it be true, who's taking the food? Hamas is stealing the food. Like, what do you want? If you don't let so many trucks go in, we're not going to give you, we're not going to give you weapons. We're not going to give you bullets. They're doing what they can do. They're stealing the food. What do you want them to do? What more can they do? They have to guard the trucks against Hamas, go absolutely in there to do it. I mean, how much do they have to do? I mean, the level that they're held accountable is crazy. They're not doing enough. Well, like, what could they do? What could they do? But nobody cares. Nobody cares. Not to mention the fact, someone points out, very true, also wasting people's lives. These people, they put these people in power. They put these maniacs in power. Imagine, same thing in Iran. Imagine, or they took power or whatever, but imagine instead of using all this money and whatever to make missiles, imagine if they were to take all this money and use it for their own people. Imagine what they could do. But they don't. So they're their own worst enemy. They're bringing themselves down. Okay. Right? That's their choice. They say, well, maybe it's going to be an uprising. Maybe. But they're pretty good at squashing uprisings, in Iran. How bad it should be. People get what they need. But you got these crazy people in power. That's the problem. The only way is to get them out. Once you get them out, maybe be normal. Like the time when the Shah of Iran was in power. Maybe you do that. That'd be much. They'd be much better. Oh, they don't want this. They don't want to sit there being attacked and this and that. But that's anytime it's an uprising, they crush it like no tomorrow. So it's kind of hard to be a part of that when potentially just going to get slaughtered. And these people that quote unquote were in charge, they all pilfered all this money. Not to mention what they did with it, making tunnels, other things. They were billionaires. They were billionaires, all of them. Living it up, and there are people getting crushed. But again, it's all for the cause. Got to use them as human shields, and they got billions. That's what it is. That's the reality, right? That is the reality. People don't seem to care. They don't seem to care, which just goes to show people will believe anything, and the more you keep saying the same thing, people will believe it. That's it's unfortunate, but that is that's the reality. Somebody asked, what's more great, a rabbi or a king? Depends. Right? That's always a good answer. What does it depend on? Right? What does it depend on? It depends on the status of the rabbi and the status of the king. That's what it depends on. It could be a king is greater than the rabbi, maybe he knows more. Right? But in general, it could be the other way around. Right? Very well could be that the rabbi knows a lot more than the king. Or is more greater and should be more respected. Well, you have to respect the king, right? No question about it. You have to respect the king. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting question. If you had a choice between a king and a rabbi, who do you respect first? The king. Yeah, the king comes first, right? It depends what it is. Depends what, rabbi says something, the king says something. Depends. It depends what it is. Um, a king could be ignorant also, theory, right? Still, there's a level of kingship. It's got to be respected, right? No question. But certain things, yeah, king has over rabbi. It's true. But that doesn't mean by knowledge per se. But not, nonetheless, king has different status. King would definitely have a different, status. There was a question. I was going to remember what it was. If there was a question the Gemara asks, wasn't a king and a prophet? I think a prophet should be greater. It was, I don't know, I have to look it up. I don't remember. I remember the Gemara brings the case. Brings the case either a king and a prophet, king and a rabbi and a prophet. I don't remember offhand what it was. I would have to go back and look at it. Yeah. Any other questions here? Someone mentions, I think God's making the elites look like fools. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think there's any question, right? You certainly have a lessening of knowledge, generations that you get further away from Mount Sinai. But yeah, you have that, and you have people being brainwashed by the media. Now all of a sudden people saying, the whole thing, conspiracy theories about a number of things, and now we're coming to fruition. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by, in general, but there are things that are coming to the forefront. They hit, the media hit, no question, right? So, but they knew that, right? They definitely knew that. Someone asked, "What when Dubai will be bombed?" Maybe. Supposedly be peace loving group. I don't know. I got these Abrahamic occurred. Dubai loves Israel in theory. Israelis have done business there, in Dubai, and Jews in America gone there, make weddings, I don't know, bar mitzvahs, who knows what. So they're all for business, they're all for making money. Right. The question is the hatred of Jews going to stop them from making money? See, not that way. You see, they're more interested in money. Right? Saudi Arabia, different issue. But eventually I think Saudi Arabia will probably come around also because Saudi Arabia needs Israel also. They want Israel's protection against Iran. So they're not stupid either. Yeah, they got all this money and whatever, but like they have a standing army or anything. Right? Iran could probably flatten them if they wanted to. So, they'll be very happy, to have Israel protect them. Very good. But it's still not in place that they're acknowledging them or whatever. So like, okay, I think over time it'll happen. Right. But that's the question. That's the question. Do you hate Israel more or do you want to survive? Right. And Iran is a wild card, absolute wild card. So they want protection. Right. So okay, it's gonna take time. They'll say, they'll only recognize Israel when Israel, has a peaceful settlement with the quote unquote Palestinians and having a separate separate state and all that. Okay. Talk is cheap. Let's see. Let's see if Iran actually, does something, that goes out the window. They want to be protected. So they have a common enemy. Common enemy makes sense. To recognize Israel, okay, but I think it's a matter of time. Just a matter of time. But we'll see. They're they're afraid of Iran. I think they're very happy what Israel's doing. I think a lot of countries very happy what Israel's doing to them, what they did to Hezbollah, whatever. Yeah, so that Israel do the dirty work. Okay, but they need them to do that because they know if they don't do that, they'll spread all over. It's like cancer; it'll just spread all over. Yeah. Any other questions? You said before there are three things hard to acquire: Olam Haba, the next world; land of Israel, to be a Jew. No, Olam Haba, that's true. That's one thing that's hard to acquire. Torah, it's hard to acquire in the land of Israel, right? These things are acquired with hardship, right? The land of Israel, Olam Haba, the next world, and Torah. Not to be a Jew, right? Torah is the third thing. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I just every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, that's our fathers, book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBI CHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day.